In this lecture, we're going to introduce you to fraud, and specifically the misappropriation of assets. Fraud is defined as an intentional act involving the use of deception to achieve an unfair or unlawful gain. There are three main categories of fraud. The first is the misappropriation of assets. The second is financial statement fraud, and the third is corruption. External auditors are mainly concerned with frauds that result in the misstatement of financial statements. That would be misappropriation of assets and financial statement fraud. Again, what differentiates fraud from an error is the intent of the perpetrator. Misappropriation of assets is when a perpetrator steals or misuses assets of an organization or assets that were intended for the organization. According to the ACFE, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, and based on their 2020 Global Fraud Survey, asset misappropriation is the most common but least costly of the fraud schemes. 86% of the cases that were in the survey were the misappropriation of assets, and the median loss was $100,000. Asset misappropriations are the primary fraud in small business. Employees are the most common perpetrator, but executives who've only committed 20% of the frauds in the fraud survey had the largest amount of losses. Over $600,000 was the median case for an executive fraud, where an employee fraud, the median loss was $60,000. The most common schemes of misappropriation of assets include thefts of cash. Skimming of cash receipts is when the cash is stolen before it's on the accounting books. So let's say a bartender charges a patron $10 for a drink, and rather than record the sale at the cash register, the bartender pockets the $10. That would be considered skimming. Embezzling cash or cash larceny, that's stealing cash that is on the accounting books. If you steal or misuse company assets, if you procure personal items with company funds, if you falsify wages, these are all common schemes of the misappropriation of assets. I hope this brief introduction to fraud and misappropriation of assets has been helpful.